Today I'm testing 12 different cups to answer the question once and for all, which bowl is best for coffee cupping? I'll take some measurements, do some tests, and try them out in a standardized coffee cupping to see which cups I like and which ones I don't. I'll be checking the cost per bowl, heat retention, whether they meet the Specialty Coffee Association's standards or not, user experience, and whether or not I would use them in my own cupping lab, in my own roastery. At the end, I'll try to arrive at a winner, but I also suspect that some of these might be better for certain use cases. There might not be a clear, definitive, universal winner, but we won't know until we run some tests and try them out. I'm going to introduce you to our lineup here. I have them in order of least expensive to most expensive. We start off at under $1 each and we go up to almost $15. One thing that I really want to look at is cost really important? Is this bowl 15 times better than this bowl? I should also mention that in this video, I'm not going to go into the entire protocol of how to run a coffee cupping. I'm assuming that you have some understanding, that you've done coffee cupping before. And if you haven't, that's totally fine. If you want me to make a video about that, let me know in the comments below. But the purpose of this video is really to test these 12 different bowls. So without further ado, let's go kind of one by one. First one here is the IKEA Verdagen. It is glass, as you can see, and it holds 7 ounces. This one is really narrow and tall. I figured I'd give it a try, even though it's not super typical of what you'd see on most cupping tables, though I have seen similar ones in use in different places. This is IKEA Verdagen, 83 cents, glass, 7 ounces. We continue with the IKEA trend. This is the IKEA Pokal. It comes in other colors and sizes. Each one is about $1.17. The cup is significantly bigger. It's 9 ounces, so we'll see how that affects the cupping experience. The next one, we're continuing on with glass, is significantly smaller. I should also mention that not all bowls used for cupping were developed specifically for cupping. I've seen a lot of roasters use glasses similar to these on the cupping table or other containers that can double as cupping bowls. Back to the next in line, the Libby 5-ounce glass. So it's significantly smaller, almost half the size of this one. 5-ounce Gibraltar glass. These you can find on restaurant supply stores online, coming in packs of like 36. So if you needed to buy a bunch, you could get packs of 36. And they break down to just about $1.75 per unit per cup. Now we start getting into things that were created specifically for coffee cupping. And a lot of people, I'm sure, will have seen this bowl. It is by Barista Hustle. It is a food-grade, high-density polyethylene. They say that it's shatterproof and that it doesn't stain. However, this one I'm borrowing from another roastery, and you can tell it's a little bit stained. It used to be white. It also comes in a black color. This is advertised as holding 7.5 ounces or 220 milliliters, about $2.91. The only plastic bowl that I have on the table. All the rest are glass or ceramics. So this is the only one of a different material. I have a lot of thoughts on this cup, and I know some people really, really love it, while other people don't love it so much. I'll tell you my more specific thoughts later on. Then we move to the Libby porcelain cupping bowl. It's made of porcelain, it holds 7 ounces, and each unit is about $3.99. This one I feel like is pretty typical of what you'd see in some roasteries around the world. Then we go to the Suisse, which is also porcelain, though this one is 8 ounces. You can see Suisse or Suisse, I don't know how to pronounce the name of this company. A very similar shape to the Libby, but this one is an ounce bigger, and it's sold as a bouillon bowl. So you can get this at like restaurant supply stores. Even though these are very, very similar, I wanted to try them both out to see if there were any significant differences. This one comes out at just around $4 per unit, but it's sold in sets of 6, or at least I purchased it in a set of 6. Next, we have Rhino Coffee Gear's ceramic bowl. I bought 2 different options. They have one that has black on the inside and one that's just white. And you'll see that some of the bowls here are also black. For people who are running cuppings or coffee tasters, sometimes they'll use black bowls or cup under red light to eliminate the variable of sight. Because if you can see if a coffee looks a bit lighter or looks a bit darker, that might influence your perception of the coffee. I bought one of the black lined and one of the all white just to see if there are any significant differences within this same bowl. And they're ceramic. They're advertised as holding 230 milliliters, and they come in at $4.95 each. Then we are back to glass. This is the Duralex Picardi. You see it there. It is 250 milliliters and it's glass, as you can see. I got the pink one. As we were just discussing, you don't really want visual cues when you're tasting coffee because it can influence your perception. And they have shown that actually pink can increase our perception of sweetness. So I wouldn't actually want to use a pink glass on an official cupping. However, I really liked these glasses and I wanted to keep them after this exercise. Oh, by the way, I might be keeping these cups, but I'm giving most of the other cupping bowls away to my Patreon supporters. So if you want your chance to win some of these sets, I'll put the link down below. You can become a patron, get some updates from me, and become one of my biggest supporters. Thanks so much. Back to the video. I just wanted this because it's cute. It's pink. Cute. Look at it. $5.50 each. Then we get back to bowls meant for cupping. This one is espresso parts. I have also seen this bowl in plenty of cupping labs at coffee competitions. I feel like I've seen this shape of glass at a lot of cup tasters events or roasting competitions. This is the espresso parts cupping bowl. It is made of porcelain, 7.5 ounces, comes in at about $6 each. Off the bat, this cup, to be honest, even though it's around in a lot of places, this is probably the least interesting cupping bowl for me. And also, I will say, it just doesn't stack very well. There's no like lip. Like you can see with this one, this kind of divot, the shape allows them to stack a little bit better when they're upside down. Or this, the Barista Hustle one, they literally built it to be able to stack many high without them falling over. With the espresso parts, I think actually I have another one. And I'll show you, like, if it, well, okay, it's not as bad as I thought, but you can see it has this kind of relatively significant tilt. If you try to stack 5, not a very stable stack. The last thing you want is for all of your cupping bowls to topple over and break. Durability, I think, is important. We'll give it a try anyway. Then we kind of double in price from here on out. The origami porcelain. There are 2 bowls here. So really, I think I said I have 12 bowls. I actually have 14 because I have 2 of these origamis and I have 2 of the rhino gear. Seem pretty similar. And you may notice that they have lines on the inside. I don't know if I think you can see that on this camera. I don't know. There are 2 lines on the inside, which they say the bottom line is 150 milliliters and the top line is 200 milliliters of water. So we'll measure that. If that's accurate, I think that could be a really interesting feature. However, I don't think it's necessarily necessary for a cupping bowl. When you're doing a cupping, you should have already calculated the volume that it can hold and then pouring to the very top every time. But this is an innovation that they have made, and we'll see if I like it in practice or not. These come in at $13 each. If you need to outfit an entire roastery with 100, 200 cupping bowls, this is not, I don't think, going to be a very economical solution. They do feel relatively fragile. I don't think that you can see on the camera, but it's so thin, I can see shadows coming through, whereas with the other porcelain ones, they're pretty opaque. I can't see any shadows. But with the white one, I can definitely see shadows, which makes me a little bit nervous about its durability. The black one though, I really like this aesthetic. Like honestly, just want to use this for a drinking vessel. I really love the shiny on the inside and the matte on the outside. I think the design is really cool. Talk about stacking, they've literally made a ridge around the outside so that you can stack them, and it's really quite secure. Like that's not gonna get knocked over. So I'm into that a lot, but at $13 each, I don't know if it's exactly worth it, but we'll see. We'll see. Moving on to the next one. This is Loveramics, and it might look just like a black cupping bowl, but it's actually a color changing bowl based on temperature, based on heat. So when you pour hot water into it, it'll change to a white color, and then as the coffee cools, it will kind of go back to black. I haven't tried this one yet, so I'm super excited to give it a go. Otherwise, it's a pretty standard bowl. It holds 220 milliliters, comes in at $13 each. You can buy these in sets for a slight discount, but it's still relatively expensive for a bowl that has about the same shape as this one at a third of the price, $4, $13. So we'll try them out and we'll see if this is 3 times better. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. Maybe it is. Last but certainly not least, this is the Hario Kasuya. It was developed in collaboration with Tetsu Kasuya, who was the 2016 Brewers Cup World Champion. This is a black glazed porcelain that holds 260 milliliters, and this is the most expensive cupping bowl I have on the table. There might be more expensive ones out there. Came in at $14.24. It also has a little ridge on the inside. I'm not sure that's supposed to indicate a certain volume level. I don't know, we'll see. I'll let you know. And this one again is black in order to prevent any visual stimulus or any visual bias when you are cupping coffee. All right, that is the lineup of 14 bowls here to test. I'm gonna do that now. I'm going to measure the diameter across the top. I'm gonna use the volume measurement to calculate how much coffee each bowl requires for a cupping. And then I'm going to do a cupping with each of these bowls and test the thermal retention. This, I have a thermal gun, and I also have a digital thermometer. I'm gonna test the surface temperature and the temperature of the liquid at 4 minutes, 8 minutes, 12 minutes, 16, 20, to see how each of these vessels either allows the coffee to hold on to heat or if it sucks heat out of them. One thing to note is the Barista Hustle cupping bowl does boast that it has amazing heat retention properties, 18 degrees Fahrenheit hotter than ceramic bowls, which is kind of a wild claim. I think that's pretty, I mean, if it works, it works. We'll see if it does. And the reason you might want a cupping bowl to stay hot is if it takes you a long time to get through a cupping, whether you have a lot of bowls that you need to taste through, or if you have a big staff, it takes a lot of people a long time to go through the cupping. On the other hand, if you have a small team and you're running through multiple tables of cuppings, you might want your coffee to cool off faster so you can taste it from hot, warm, and cold in a shorter timeline so you can get through more coffees. So it depends on you. It depends on what you need, what you want. Anyway, all that set aside, I'm gonna do some calculations, run some tests, and we'll see where we get to. Though, I will say, this is not a scientific experiment. If it were, I would want to do multiple tests of all of these to see trends over time. So what I've done so far is measure the internal diameter of each of these bowls. So there's not really an objective, like better or worse. I wonder if it will affect how quickly the heat dissipates, or could potentially affect how quickly aromas dissipate. I'm not really measuring aromas in this instance, but it does matter if you want to use cupping equipment that is standardized with the Specialty Coffee Association. They have guidelines or kind of rules on a range of diameters that are in spec and a range of volumes that are in spec. If you are running a cupping lab where you want to be SCA certified, you want to run SCA courses, that is a consideration for you. However, if you are just running a cupping at your roastery, if you are doing it with your team, you don't necessarily need to use SCA certified equipment or standards. There also is a rule how much coffee per volume, 8.25 grams of coffee for every 150 milliliters that the container can hold. I know some roasters who updose or downdose depending on their preferences and their palate sensitivities, and I think that's totally fine as long as whatever you do in your roastery you are consistent with. However, the benefit of using the guidelines and the rules is that when you go out into the world, when you go to a coffee event, then you know you're speaking the same language. You know you come from the same experience. Take it or leave it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm gonna keep going, weighing these out. So what I've done so far, again, is take the diameter measurement across the top. I've also poured room temperature water into each of them in order to see the volumetric measurement. Then I use the calculation of 8.25 grams of coffee to 150 milliliters of water to get how much coffee needs to go into each of these vessels for it to be kind of on the SCA standards. So this one, the tiny one, the little Libby 5 ounce, actually holds 150 milliliters. This is what a 150 milliliter vessel looks like. So it gets 8.25 grams of coffee. Okay, we have all our coffees weighed out based on the volume measurement of each vessel. Let's get to cupping. I'm not gonna film that because that would be way too long of a video. We'll regroup when I'm done cupping through these 14 bowls. So I'll be back in just a second. Here we go. Okay, now I have cupped through all of these cups except for one. I wanted to save one so I can show you exactly what I did, kind of my protocol on this one. We're gonna do this one together so you can kind of see my methodology. I started with just the dry grounds in the bowl, and then I get 200-degree Fahrenheit water, and I'm gonna pour that at the moment that I start the timer. So here we go. Fill them to the top. And now we wait for 4 minutes. Also need some hot water in here to rinse my spoons, heat my spoons. And then this will be where I put the extra skimmed. Fuck. I realize my microphone is not on. Technical difficulties. Aha! And now the microphone works again. I have cupped through all of these. I'm actually surprised at how much I've learned through cupping through these. My intention was at 4 minutes to get the first temperature reading, but it ended up, because of how long it takes to break the crust and then skim, the readings actually happened at 6 minutes. So I was consistent with that throughout all of the cups. So I'm gonna do that one on this one as well. But 4 minutes, I'm gonna break the crust, and I'm doing it like I would in a normal cupping. However, I'm not really smelling. I'm not doing a sensory analysis of these cups at this moment. So that was breaking the crust. This is called skimming, where you take 2 spoons and you put them around the inside of the opening of the cup in order to get all of those floaty bits off the top. Discard. And then at 6 minutes, as I said, with the others, it was at 6 minutes that I took the first reading, so I'll do that one with this as well so that we maintain that consistency. So I was going straight down and this straight in. So 152 degrees on the gun and 159 degrees on the thermometer. And then the next reading I'll take at 8 minutes. In most coffee cupping situations, you won't be tasting the coffee until after 8 minutes anyway, because it is way too hot. There we go. And that is 147 on the thermometer and 152. In some of these bowls, it was hard to get a really accurate reading, specifically the Barista Hustle bowl. Like, I think it's because it's so spherical shaped. And so if I moved the end just a little bit, it would read pretty wildly different numbers. It was true with the Barista Hustle one and Rhino Ware ones as well. There was a lot of variation within the liquid temperature. The glass cups had a pretty stable temperature. When I'm putting the thermometer in each of the bowls, it does change a little bit over the couple seconds that I have it in there. So I'm kind of just capturing the average or the temperature that it's staying at most consistently. Of course, there is a margin of error here. It's not perfect. This isn't a science experiment. This is a point in time test of stuff. So we're coming up to 12 minutes. I'm gonna maybe show you how this works over here. 136 and can you read that? 141. Now we're waiting for 16 minutes. We're at 127, 132. And for the last one, we're waiting till 20 minutes. So we'll take the last reading of the last bowl. Tell you what, cupping 14 bowls takes a while. This one is 100, 120, 123. And now I take a sip to see how it is after 20 minutes. That's a good sipping temperature. I would consider that warm. If you really want to get the entire range from hot, warm, and cold, you're gonna want something probably that cools off a little bit faster. Just something to think about. So let's assess these now, shall we? Yeah, let's talk about these. So we'll start off with the vessels that retained the most heat. They were the hottest at the end of 20 minutes, and they were these three right here. The two IKEA glass and the Barista Hustle. This one was 131 degrees Fahrenheit at the end. The Verdagen was 129, and the Barista Hustle was 128. That was a bit difficult to get the reading on the Barista Hustle. It's interesting to note that Barista Hustle claims that their bowls will retain a significantly more heat than any ceramic. And while it did retain more heat than all of the other ceramics, it didn't by the 18 degrees Fahrenheit that they claim it will. I feel like that claim is kind of debunked, at least in my eyes. And it didn't retain heat as much as two other glass options. If you want to argue with me, do it down in the comments. The cups that let go of the most heat were the Libby porcelain. So this one, the walls of the Libby are significantly thicker. A thick ceramic doesn't insulate the cup, it pulls the heat out. So anyway, Libby was the coolest cup at the end at 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Then both Rhinos and the Hario Kasuya were 123 degrees Fahrenheit. It was interesting that both of the Rhinos, they didn't have the same numbers all the way through, but they ended on the same internal temperature at 20 minutes. And the rest all ended at a liquid temperature of 124 or 125 degrees Fahrenheit. Now I'm gonna do overall summary stuff. For each bowl, what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it, if it follows the SCA guidelines, and if I would use it in my own roastery. So, one by one, let's go. First of all, the IKEA Verdagen. What I like about it is that it's cheap. It's less than $1 each. Another thing I like about this one is that the volume is 200 milliliters, which means it's 11 grams of coffee in, and that ratio, 200 to 11, is just real nice. It's an easy way to remember how much coffee to weigh out. So there's something to be said about that. What I don't like about it is the narrow opening. I found that difficult to skim, and then when I was trying to scoop or slurp, I found it difficult to put my spoon in, especially as the volume of the cup decreased. Now, does it meet the standards for an SCA cupping vessel? No, it does not, because of the narrow opening at the top. And last, would I use this in my roastery? Probably not. There are other better options. The only reason that I would get this is because it's so cheap. So if you're super on a budget and you don't find any other cheaper options, it could work. I wouldn't personally buy it. Next, the IKEA Pokal. What I don't like about it is really how big it is. Because of how big it is, you need to add more coffee in order for the ratios to be right. So you're adding over 16 grams every cup. And that is kind of a lot, especially when this one only requires 11. That might not be a huge deal to you, but it can add up, especially if you're getting small samples and you want to cup multiple times. So that's what I don't like about this one. What I like about it, I don't know, it's fine. There's nothing spectacular about it, aside from the fact that it is affordable. They do have a smaller size. This is the 9 ounce. I would be curious about the 7 ounce to see how that would do as well. It did also retain the most heat, probably because it's a bigger vessel. It has more thermal mass. This would be a good option if you need to keep your coffee very hot for a long time. Does it meet SCA regulations? Yes. Would I bring this into my roastery? I personally probably wouldn't. I would like something that's a bit smaller, maybe the 7 ounce of this glass, and see how that worked. But it was fine. It was all right. Moving on to the Libby Gibraltar 5 ounce, the little baby one. What I liked about it is that it's small. It requires less coffee. So if you're conscious about not using as much. As I said, this one takes over 16 grams of coffee. This one only 8.25 grams. It is 150 milliliters of volume. What's good about it? It's small if you need to do very small cuppings. What's not so good about it? It's small. If you're doing cuppings on your own, this could be a good option. But if you're doing a cupping with multiple people, it's gonna drain real quick. And then, is it SCA compliant? No, it's not. It is too small, doesn't hold enough liquid, and the diameter is not wide enough across the top. Would I bring this into my roastery? Maybe. I might have a couple lying around for cortados, or if I wanted just a small cup of coffee, or if I wanted to do a very small cupping with a very fancy special coffee, and I only had 8.25 grams of that coffee to do it. Otherwise, nothing like extremely great or terrible. What this is telling me is I need to go find a 7-ounce glass this shape. I just need something in between these two, and that will be my sweet spot. If you want me to find that and test that, let me know in the comments below. Next up, we have Barista Hustle. What I like about it, that it's really durable. These, you can throw these on the ground. You can drop them from great heights. You can, chuck them around the roastery. You can travel with them and they're not gonna break. They're also really light. That leads into what I don't like about this cup. Because it's so light, if you're not careful, when you're skimming, you can kind of tend to like push the cup. I really just don't like that as far as user experience. That is not my preference. It's too easy to push around. It's also a little bit top heavy if you get on the corner there. It can be easy to spill. If you knock the cupping table or someone bumps into it, they can just kind of tip over if it gets hit on the right angle. I know that this is a controversial opinion because I know that some people really, really, really love these cupping bowls. I don't. I don't recommend them unless you're traveling. But for everyday cupping bowls, I don't really like them. Also, the fact that their claim that they retain heat significantly better than ceramic, I did not find that to be true in this instance. Maybe I have to do more tests to see, but I didn't find their claims to be true. Is it SCA compliant? No, it is not, because it's not made out of the correct material. For it to be SCA compliant, it has to be a tempered glass or a ceramic, and this is clearly plastic. Food safe, high density polyethylene. Say that 10 times fast. And would I use this in my roastery? I would not. I don't like these bowls because they're so light and skimming is a frickin' pain and they tip over too easy. Fight me in the comments. All right, next we go to the Libby porcelain. What I like about it, it's fine. What I dislike about it, it's fine. This is the one that lost the most heat quickest. So if you want a cupping bowl that is kind of like rapid fire, this might be a good option. For me, it's fine. There's nothing stand out about it. Is it SCA compliant? Yes, it is. And would I use this in my roastery? Maybe. I don't know. I don't think it's that spectacular, but none of these really are. Then we go to the Suisse bouillon bowl. What I like about it, it's fine. What I don't like about it, it does have a wider opening, so it's a little bit more difficult to skim, especially if you have smaller cupping spoons. Does it meet SCA requirements? No, it does not, because of the wider top. This one is 95 millimeters across the top, so not SCA compliant. And would I have this in my roastery? Again, there's nothing terribly special about it. It's not cheap enough to want to buy a bunch of them. Like, I'd rather have a glass, a 7-ounce glass, than this. These bowls are relatively the same, $4 each, 7 ounces, 8 ounces, both made of porcelain. So if I had to choose between these two, I'd go with the Libby. Then we go down to the Rhino coffee gear, the black and all white. And what I like about them, it comes with the option to have a black inside so that if you wanted to do more blind cuppings, you have that ability. That's nice. And there isn't really a difference in price between the two. There's not a huge difference in physicality. Black one was 1 millimeter smaller in diameter, but they're still both within spec for SCA. What I don't like about them, I don't know, they don't stack that well and they don't look special. Do you need something to look special if fits on your cupping table and you're using it as a tool. No, but I don't know. I think to me, glass looks nicer. But if you want something where you have opacity, where your visual bias is cut out, this could be a good option. If I had to choose between these two, well, it depends on my purposes, because I would actually want one with the white inside because I want to know that my roasts are consistent across the entire table. I wouldn't necessarily want black on the inside. Are they SCA compliant? Yes, they are. Would I use them in my roastery? If I somehow came into a bunch of them, I would use them. Would I buy them for $5 each over the Libby? Probably not. So for these middle price points, I'd probably say the Libby is the winner out of the $4 to $6 range. Go to the Duralex Picardi. What I like about it, it looks pretty and I'm happy to have it. I also really liked can you see this shape of the top of the glass? It's a little bit tulip. I found that made it really easy to skim the coffee off the top because it almost like provided a little shelf. Very, very minor but significant shelf that made it easier to skim the coffees off the top. So I really liked that. What I don't like, that it's $5.50, whereas something like this is less than $2. I don't like that it's more expensive, but otherwise, I think it's fine. Is it SCA compliant? Yes, it is. And would I have this in my own roastery? Yeah, though I probably would get something that's cheaper, also made of glass. It's nice, it's pretty, it's cute. But this is probably more practical, something in between these two. Then we have espresso parts. What I liked, nothing in particular. What I don't like is the look of it. I just don't like this shape, I think. I just don't like the shape. And if I was gonna get something porcelain, again, I'd go somewhere up over here, a less expensive option that does about the same thing. Is it SCA compliant? Yes, it is. Would I have it in my roastery? Not really. I kind of want to break these up at this point to like glass, mid-range ceramic. I don't know, the Barista Hustle kind of sits on its own. And then we'll talk about the high-end ceramic as well. If I'm choosing from all of these, honestly, I'd choose something that doesn't exist here on this table. I'd choose a 7-ounce glass between the two of these. I'm not choosing the Barista Hustle. I just don't like it. Out of all of these options, I'm choosing the Libby because it's less expensive, does the same things as the other ones, and loses heat faster, which if that's something you're looking for, you have it in this cup. And then let's talk about the high-end ceramics. The origami cups here, what I like about them, I think they look pretty, especially the black one. I really love this matte finish on the outside. Also really love the stackability. They're super sturdy when they're stacked. What I don't like, when I measured the volume on the inside, it didn't match up with what they said it would exactly. They said that the lower ridge would be 150 milliliters. I clocked that at 140. They said the upper ridge would be 200. I clocked it at 190. So there was a 10 milliliter difference there. Whether that's significant to you or not, that's for you to decide. I think that if a company makes a claim, they put into the design something that is supposed to be a volumetric measurement and it doesn't hit that exactly, to me, that's not great. The other thing I did not like about these ridges is that when I was skimming, the spoon would get kind of like stuck on the inside of the ridge here. And I found myself almost like accidentally flinging the coffee bits as I was trying to clean the top of the bowl. So that really detracted from my personal user experience with this cup, especially at $13 each. To have inaccurate measurements and to have difficulty in user experience when trying to skim, that was not great for me. Are they SCA compliant? Yes, they are. And would I bring these into my own roastery? No, I would not. I really wanted to love these because it seems to me that they're trying to come up with some innovations, but it just didn't quite come together for me. Onto the Lovramics. What I did like was it did do the color change thing. It was kind of cool. It was pretty. It didn't last super long, which I guess once the color goes away, It's supposed to indicate that it's like drinkable temperature. It was a neat trick. Is it worth $13 a cup? I don't think so, personally, for me, but I liked it. It was nice, it was amusing. What I didn't like about the cup, the diameter of this is the same as the Suisse. It is a little bit hard to skim everything off the top if you have smaller cupping spoons. Also makes it non-compliant with SCA guidelines currently. That answers the next question. Is it compliant with SCA? No, it is not. The diameter is too wide by 5 millimeters. Would I have this in my roastery? No, it's too expensive. And you know, like if you're a roaster, of course you want nice things. Like you want equipment that is going to equip you to do your job the best. However, you're also most likely on a budget, and spending $13 a pop on cupping bowls, I don't think it's worth it. And then moving on to the last one, the Hario Kasuya. What I like about it, I like this design. It's a little bit different than all of the other ones. It's pretty sleek and elegant. What I don't like about it is the price tag, $14.24 each, is too expensive in my book, especially for something that doesn't do anything differently than all the other options. It's fine, but is it fine for just under $15? To me, no. Is it SCA compliant? Yes, of course it is. Would I have it in my roastery? I would not, because it would be way too expensive. So, what do we end up with here? I guess our winners from the glass category is something that doesn't exist, a 7-ounce glass between these two. The winner of our ceramics category, surprisingly to me, I didn't think that this would be my favorite going in, but it has become my favorite, the Libby porcelain 7-ounce. I guess I just like 7-ounce vessels is what I'm learning here. This is also really interesting because I think something up here in the 7-ounce size would have really solid heat retention properties. If you want something that is going to stay hot longer, probably a 7-ounce glass. If you want something that's going to cool off more quickly, a 7-ounce Libby porcelain is probably where you want to go. That's kind of my run through these 14 different cupping bowls. I'll probably dissect all the data that I took, all of the temperature readings, and post those on Instagram in the coming days, weeks, whatever. Go follow me at RoasterCat on Instagram. Then make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell here on YouTube for more coffee and coffee roasting content. I'm RoasterCat. This has been an exploration of a bunch of cupping bowls. Happy roasting! Cheers!